The views and opinions of this broadcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Armed Media, New Productions and its affiliates. Enjoy the show.
Teflon Pan Man. I'm the Teflon Pan Man. Ain't nothing gonna stick on me.
Hey everyone, and welcome to All You Can Eat. It's the podcast about deliciousness. I'm your host, Rob Rosenthal, coming to you in late May from New York City, New York. You can probably hear at some point some of the noise in the background. Excited to be here with you today. Episode 108 of All You Can Eat. Special tonight because two guests, not just one. First, Kathy McCabe, who is easily one of the foremost authorities on Italy, has an entire business predicated on Italy, on traveling there, on transforming your life in certain ways. It's called Dream of Italy. We'll be speaking first with Kathy. And then after that, Matt Jozwiak, a super impressive young man, former chef at 11 Madison Park, which was easily one of the great restaurants in the world. But Matt went and left that part of the business and became the guy in charge of a company called, what do you call his company? Rethink Food. Rethink Food is a nonprofit dealing with the issue of food insecurity in America. And I have to say that food insecurity is a real issue. So we talk with Matt. But first up, Kathy McCabe, we are going to talk about all things delicious and all things Italy. Here we go. There you go. Hey, Kathy McCabe, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to All You Can Eat. Kathy, it's the podcast about deliciousness, and I am delighted to have you today as our guest.
I'm probably going to get really hungry talking, right?
You know what? I hope so, because the truth of the matter is, even though we have a lot to talk about as far as Italy, certainly I always like to whet people's appetite when it comes down to it, and by talking about things that I really tasted. So
I'm ready.
So let's start from the very beginning, because I'm fascinated by what you do. First of all, how are you?
I'm good. I'm very busy. I'm getting ready to launch this new special for PBS. So I'm busy and excited, but I love to work and I love Italy and I love to talk about Italy. So it's all very good.
It is very good. And where have we found you? Where are you located at this moment in the world?
I live in Denver for now.
Okay.
You never know
Right.
where I might end up. So you found me in Denver. It's a beautiful sunny day. It's been a rough and rainy spring and gray, which it usually isn't. So I think we're finally coming out of that.
Yes, and we're coming out of. We're also coming out of a very complicated period in our history. But the good news is that people are certainly returning to travel in big numbers. Now, tell the folks about what you do, because it's fascinating. Dream of Italy is you've turned it into an enormous enterprise. So when did you fall in love with Italy? What's the backstory here?
The backstory is actually really beautiful, and I almost cry every time I tell the story. So I grew up with Italian-American grandparents, and my mom was a teacher, so I went to their house for my daycare, and my grandfather had this huge garden, and both of my grandparents were really good cooks, and it was just a very warm and alive environment, and I was very close to them. And everything I later found in Italy, I actually seemed familiar from my grandparents. But all their parents were from Italy, and my grandfather's father was from a town called Castelvetere sul Cadore, and his father would talk about this mythical place. And it was my grandfather's dream to actually see this place. And my grandfather was a railroad engineer, 8th grade education, but they saved money. And when they were retired, they traveled a lot. They made it to Italy, to the port of Naples. They asked the cab driver, take us to Castelvetere. they were taken to the wrong Castelvettere. And the roads weren't so good. It was the 60s. They didn't know if they had enough time. So by the time I graduated from college, my grandfather was still alive. He was 93. And my mother and I decided to take this trip to Italy. And we decided to we had to go find the town. We found the town. And then my grandfather died suddenly 36 hours later.
After returning to the town.
After I fulfilled his dream, he
Right.
didn't know, we hadn't called him.
Right.
And he left this earth, and I swear to you, he gave me Italy and Castelvettere as something to soften the blow. So my dream of Italy was originally his dream
Right.
of Italy. And then I worked in journalism and TV news and travel, politics, and then travel. And then I was going on my vacations to Italy every year after I discovered this town. And I went back a number of times. And then I decided to start a subscription travel newsletter in 2002, a membership site. I've always been a little ahead of my time. And 19 years later, it's a magazine. It's still a membership site, but glossy magazine. And then it also became this PBS series 7 years ago. And there's actually an episode about Castelvettere, and it gets even more crazy, the whole thing.
While we're on it, though, even though we'll come back to it later, tell people the website address so that they can pop right into it whenever they want.
So it's dreamofitaly.com, and you can find everything about the magazine, the TV show, podcast, and anything you need. And you can find me on social media at Dream of Italy.
Right. It's fantastic and easy and well done. So you go all the time, I assume. You're there a lot.
I was until COVID. Yes.
Yeah. When's the next trip back for you?
I don't know. It was very tempting when they said May 16th you could take the COVID tested flights. I just have so much to do. It may not be till the end of the summer actually, which feels strange because I'm so anxious to go. But I have a number of things to do that need to be taken care of here. So when it'll be almost 2 years since I was there.
Before I ask you just general things about Italy, because I know that you have kind of highlighted what you call the 11 essential elements of the Italian lifestyle. But before I ask you about that, talk a little bit about the PBS show. What happens on that? And you might mention some of the well-known guests that you have coming on. What's the show all about?
So it's a series called Dream of Italy. It's really based on what I did with the magazine, authentic travel experiences where you meet the locals, you get really hands-on. I feel like I'm a vehicle for the viewer. I'm in the stand-in and I'm making a mosaic. I'm learning to make orecchietti pasta. I am not a perfect person. You see a Band-Aid on my hand because I cut my finger while I'm cooking. I am I hope authentic, and people say they like that about me. And I just love Italy. So we always do a cooking lesson in each episode. We visit artisans. I try a lot of things hands-on. And so that's the series. We've had 2 seasons. We had the Dream of Italy Tuscan Sun special, but this is both a pledge and regular special on PBS. It's called Dream of Italy, Travel, Transform, and Thrive. And the premise is it's not just a trip. You can change your life the Italian way. And the big stars in the special are Sting and Trudy Styler, Francis Ford Coppola, who has a similar story of going back to his hometown in his 20s. Francis Mays, who wrote Under the Tuscan Sun. David Bach, who's an author who took his family back, took his family for a radical sabbatical, a retiree, a career changer. The premise is Italy can change your life, whether you make some changes in your own life at home or you decide to move there. And the timing couldn't be better. I think you might agree, we're in this what do we do now kind of world.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I'm interested in your thoughts about transformation. How have people, aside from just, going because it's great and fabulous and beautiful, and delicious. Talk a little bit about the transformation piece of it. How and who and what's that about?
Well, I always knew that this wasn't just about travel. I've done this for 19 years, the magazine, and 7 years, the TV show. But it's only in the last few years when I get these emails from viewers that I truly kind of realize it's about permission to dream. It's about, having permission to do something different. And I think the transformation comes when people take a trip and they see that Italians live a little bit differently than we do.
Yeah.
And they're more alive and they're happier and they're healthier. And Italy usually actually tops the Bloomberg Global Health Index as the healthiest country in the world. And part of that is access to organic, fresh food, but also community. And I think it touches people in different ways. Some people, they'll write to me after watching the show and they'll say, I got all my cookbooks out and decided to just start cooking Italian, cooking good, healthy Mediterranean diet food. Some people, Frances Mays, who wrote Under the Tuscan Sun, when I interviewed her, she feels people, especially women, go on a quest when they go to Italy. They're trying to find some piece of themselves. And it's hard to even describe, even though the whole show is about this transformation. It's discovering something that maybe you didn't know you had or that was dormant. And I think the premise of the show and my message is you don't have to move to Italy. Mm-hmm. You can, but you can change your life in other ways and be inspired by both the dream part of Dream of Italy and the Italy part.
It resonates with me in this way. I'm a graduate of culinary school, but the culinary school is based on French technique. But my entire aesthetic has always been Italian, because I always say to people, get the best ingredients you can and don't mess them up too much. And I think about Italian cooking that way. I think about keeping it, there's such beautiful stuff coming out of the ground. That when you combine a tomato from San Marzano with some olive oil and a piece of basil and maybe some mozzarella, you don't need more than the beautiful, simple, easy food there. I mean, that's part of the thing that makes it so lovely for me.
I think you've captured it, and we talk about it in the show. It is fewer ingredients, but higher quality. If you have amazing olive oil, you just need those tomatoes, the cheese, the tomatoes. Yeah. There are no, although the funniest thing is my first love was France. I still like France, but I haven't been in many years. So I'm the same way, kind of like I started with the French and then I moved to the Italian, but the tomatoes, you cannot even describe how much better the tomatoes are in Italy. It's the soil, right. It's the water. So Italian cooking, very few ingredients, but very high quality.
For sure. And I think the other part for me, Kathy, is that the country feels compact enough to be able to hop in a car and see a whole lot of different things, right? So, and what I love so much about it is not only moving around the country, but that each region offers you something kind of special from their region. Like if you're up north, you might be having something Milanese, and you might be having risotto. And then when you're in Rome, I know that I'm having my cacio e pepe. And then when I'm down in Capri, there's going to be some grilled, squid or octopus that comes out of the ground, just with, lemon and olive oil. So I love that you can kind of get around that country and enjoy local specialties wherever you go. That's a real treat for someone who likes to travel and likes to eat.
And the specialties will change town by town.
Right.
You can go 5 miles and there's a new specialty. And we forget that Italy is a relatively young country. The whole idea of Italy and United Italy, they really were their own separate kingdoms and states, and evolved in very different ways. So while there is some uniformity in the cuisine, there's a surprise, there's something different everywhere.
Yes. Now, what else? Now, I don't want to make the assumption that everybody that's tuned in, has been. So tell the people why else. I mean, of course, it's going to be delicious. Why else we love that country? You talk a little bit about about the community and the family and the lifestyle. But if you were going to, and I think sell is the wrong word, Kathy, but if you were going to tell people who are looking for a place to go as we come out of this period of self-isolation, talk about the fabulosity of Italy.
Well, I think at this point in history also, we are looking at, how have we been living and how do we want to live? And we all have been reflecting, I suppose, on our lives. And there's one scene in this special, Travel, Transform, and Thrive, where there's an Italian guy in an aperitivo, and I ask him, why do you think Americans love Italy? And he says, oh, they are allowed to have passion here. They're allowed to feel something, they're walking around all tamped down when they're home. But here in Italy, like, the emotions just come out. The simple beauties, there's a festival in every town in the summer, and every night there's music and there's community. And I think especially coming out of this isolation, you will feel more alive, I think, going to Italy than almost any other destination. And you'll feel more in tune with your authentic self and maybe it is a place where you do kind of, even if you're not going there, you're not going on a retreat, you're just going around and eating, you kind of find yourself or a new version of yourself. And so I think it's a great reminder at this time of all the reasons why it's beautiful to be alive. And we need that.
I think that you're right. And I think that those are the important factors. And I will just add on to it that, even if you're a guy that doesn't love a museum per se, there's some, just passing by the Colosseum is breathtaking, or going into the Parthenon if you're in there, or the David there in Florence. But I think also what I always got from Italy was hospitality. Do you know, like I showed up in Parma once, like at the right time of year, and said to the innkeeper, we wouldn't mind helping harvest some grapes. And he gets on the phone and he calls a guy who says, have him come on over. And he said, look, you don't have to work. We're not really harvesting, but come on over, try the wine, try the cheese. And these are the experiences completely unplanned that make the travel experience so incredible, and to your point, kind of life-changing in a way.
Well, I always say leave time for serendipity in Italy, because like crazy things happen. A stranger will invite you home for lunch.
Right.
They're very friendly people. They're amazingly generous. That's another thing. I feel like we're so traumatized and isolated from this last year. Like, the walls of being human are sort of down when you're in Italy. And you never know what's going to happen, or if you're going to drive into some kind of festival or see a vineyard on the side of the road that you want to go visit. I always tell people, don't overplan Italy. Italy just happens. Yeah. Like let Italy happen to you.
I think that's good advice. I think most people really don't operate that way. But I will tell you that one of my great trips there was we literally landed, spent a couple of days in Cinque Terre just because we had not been, and hiked a little bit, but got in the car and just started driving without a destination in mind. And
that's fantastic.
Well, the thing that was fantastic was exactly what you said. We end up in Parma, and they're having a festival that evening. They're having a festival that evening. They have a table set up for 1,000 people on Main Street because they're having chefs from all over Italy prepare. And we were able to snag, 2 seats, and then we're sitting with people who don't speak a word of English, but they're winemakers. They sent us home with wine. It's there's something that's just touchingly warm and great. Now, should we discuss the food a little bit, or do you have a feeling about that?
Oh, I can discuss it if you like.
Well, I'll tell you. Let me do something that may be a little bit more even self-serving, because I'm actually on the way over to Italy. We're going to be there.
When?
We're going to be there basically for a couple of weeks. It's the last week in August or so, the first week in September. So I know that I'm going when it's hot and maybe kind of crowded, but that's when it turns out that we can be there.
But maybe not this year, you know?
Well, maybe not. But here's my question for you. I know that we have a base the second week in Siena, so we get to float around, Tuscany. That first week, we fly into Rome, Kathy, and I guess what I would say is, even though I'm totally prepared to spend, 2 or 3 days settling into Rome, maybe 4, maybe the whole week, I wouldn't mind driving somewhere that's not Rome on the way to, or not on the way to Siena. What do you like? What should we think about?
There's so many choices. I mean, you could do as the Italians do and go to the beach. I mean, it will be crowded but it'll be real Italians on their vacations.
Correct, right.
There's the Roman island of Ponza, the island of Elba off of Tuscany, the whole coast there in Lazio, Gaeta. I love you'd have to drive across the coast of Abruzzo. We went to this town called Vasto. And it's one of the episodes, and it's just, if you love seafood and the ocean, and maybe it's kind of going to the other extreme because all the Italians will be all together. It's really, the August vacation is so imperative. There's also Umbria, which, isn't quite as famous as Tuscany, but another beautiful area to go. Assisi, Perugia. The thing is, when you go into Rome, the opportunities are endless. Rome can be exquisite in August. I've actually spent time in Rome. It's not crowded because the Italians are all on vacation.
Yeah, I get that part. I think the thing that I was tentative about was I also remember being there the time of year and walking around for an hour and being drenched because it's so hot and humid over there.
It can go either way, and that's why I kind of was thinking like, if you want to go to the ocean, you won't be alone. Right. But the ocean, you'll get the breeze. You'll get if you want to go to, there's a lake sort of. Cortona is not far from Lake Trasimeno, which is also Umbria. Mm-hmm. You want to be sort of a little bit cooler. Right. It can go either way. It can sometimes. You don't know what you're going to get in the summer. It can be excruciatingly hot. Right. And I think it's just sort of plan what you're doing during the day to have that siesta, to have that, downtime like the Italians in the afternoon. But the evenings are so beautiful.
Very good. Very exciting. Looking forward to the Dream of Italy on PBS there. Starting up when? It's soon. It's like in a week or two, no?
It is. It's the beginning of June. There's a few stations that will air it at the end of May. If you come to dreamofitaly.com/TTT, you can put your zip code in and it'll tell you when it's airing in your market. If you watch the pledge version, you can give money and you get a recipe booklet and a companion book and a DVD and Italian lessons from Rosetta Stone and jewelry, and it's a whole package. Joe Mantegna, the actor, is my co-host for the Pledge Breaks.
Right.
And for the recipe booklet, he donated 2 recipes. One is mussels Mantegna, his family recipe for mussels. I'll get you copies of all these. And one is the spaghetti carbonara that he made on his TV show Criminal Minds that people still ask him for. So there's so many layers to this special, and the food and the ancestry and just the love we all have for Italy.
I'm glad to hear it, and I'm glad that we did get into some deliciousness there, because I confess that,
Well, what are you going to have? What's like the first or second or third meal that you're going to have when you get to Italy?
I'm glad that you asked, because as a food guy, I can answer that question quite specifically. I mean, I'm telling you that if I'm in Rome, I'm going. If I'm in Rome, I'm going to be having some pasta cacio e pepe, and there's a particular place that I'll go for that.
Where do you go?
It's over in Trastevere, and I forget offhand. I forget.
Is it D'Enzo? Because that's where D'Enzo.
D'Enzo? No, it's another one. But like the cacio is their specialty. I mean, literally tossing it with 2 forks.
Eat in Rome. When anyone's in Rome, you have to eat cacio e pepe.
And the other is I am going to have a carbonara there as well. At a place called, I want to say, Flavio di Val di Vedetto or something along those lines. Oh,
yes.
extraordinary. Then you go into, for me, to be up in Tuscany. I'm having some Tuscan. I'm having steak. I'm having
Yes. Fiorentina, bistecca Fiorentina.
Bistecca Fiorentina. I'm having some white beans with that, and there's a very famous butcher.
Dario, he was in the show.
Oh yeah, well, I know Dario. I've interviewed him. I hung out with he and his wife Kim. So I didn't tell my people, but I have a reservation over to eat at his place one day.
So good. I've been. Oh my God! Even the Mac Dario, like the fast food there, the beef, and Dario is just a poet. He's just such a Renaissance man, truly. And Panzano's, that whole area is adorable.
Super excited about that. And I would say, if I get anywhere near Parma, that I'm going to be having some lovely cheese and well, I'm just, everything is good. I told people from the very first time that I went, one of the things that shocked me was that you kind of couldn't get a bad meal. I would literally be on the autostrada and you pull into a place where you're going to get gas and they're serving fresh squeezed Sicilian blood orange juice. And they're like, really?
No, we did a little segment. We have an extended version of this special. We didn't have time, but I was like, we have to film in an auto grill. It's like a great meal. And it's, you can, that this is my tip. If you want to bring some food products, pasta, chocolate, any of those things home, stop at the auto grill and buy them on your way to the airport. And they're way cheaper, like even little seasonings, seasoned packets of pepperoncino.
Right.
That's my travel tip. That's where you go to stock up.
It's a great tip. And I like it, and I will take advantage of it. Kathy McCabe, thank you so much for spending time. Love talking to you. Love what you're doing. We're going to turn people on to Dream of Italy. I'll be watching it myself, looking for some recipes, including the Montagna pasta and maybe some mussels. And there you have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Talk to you again. And looking forward to my next trip and your next trip.
I got to get mine on the books. Hearing about yours, I get jealous. I mean, I'm like, oh my God.
I'm like you, though. I got to be honest. We haven't been anywhere for, like 100 and however many, 400 days. And it's like, we used to, be on a plane professionally. So looking forward to getting back out of town.
People have to get back in the saddle. It used to be, we didn't even think about it. And now we just have to start doing again.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Ms. McCabe. Thank you for everything. Be in touch. That's Kathy McCabe, dreamofitaly.com. Check that out. I'm already hungry and excited to get on my way over there. Next up, a conversation with Matt Jozwiak. As I said to you, a young guy doing really impressive work on dealing with the issue of food insecurity in this country. And here you go. Here's Matt and me. Tell the people why we're having this conversation. What is it that you do?
My job is I'm the CEO of Rethink Food, which is a nonprofit based in New York City that works to create a more sustainable and equitable food system.
Now, here's what I want to ask you about. When you say like to create a more equitable and sustainable food system, that's fine and good and understandable. But I think what I think we should explain to people is what's meant by what's the way that it's expressed? What's meant by food insecurity?
Yeah, food insecurity is and I've learned a lot over the years about it, and it really. It's not what people think. It's not homelessness. I guess maybe it's easier to start with what it's not. It's not homelessness. It's basically an inconsistent flow of nutritious food into your life. So you don't know when or where you might eat on Friday or Wednesday, or if you got to pay rent at the end of the month, you might not know where you're buying groceries. It's just a general stress and fear about where you're going to get food.
That's clear. I guess the next question after that is how big of a problem is it here in the United States? What are the numbers suggest in terms of people who suffer from that kind of insecurity?
There's a lot of new data coming out on food insecurity, but it's around 1 in 5 in New York City suffer from food insecurity. Sadly, it's 1 in 4 children suffer from it.
And you set up the nonprofit rethink.org. What how does it work, and how do you and how far does it and how wide does it spread?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So it's maybe it would be helpful if I kind of shared with you the origin story a little bit, and that might.
By all means, because there's no. I mean, I have my own series of. Yes, is the answer. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was a cook. I worked in restaurants. I washed dishes. I was a bar back. I've been a server. I really had no corporate training, no nothing. And I just, when I was working in restaurants, I always, I noticed that there was like a pretty consistent, there was pretty big problem with the amount of food that was being wasted. And there was a lot of, issues with people that I worked with that were suffering from food insecurity. I remember when I was in Chicago, I made $19,000 a year at my first job, $19,500 a year at my first job as a cook in 2007, living in the city of Chicago. And I'd go into work on my day off just to eat lunch, I'd work for a little bit and eat family meal and go home, not paid. And it's just this really big disconnect. We have all of this food, and there are a lot of people, and we have enough food in this city right now to feed every single person. Mm-hmm. There's just a disconnect logistically by how it works. And I'm not like the savviest person on the face of the planet, and my original idea was, let's just take the food, make really beautiful stuff out of it, and cater community centers. And I had no previous nonprofit background. So when I did that, and with the help of Daniel, because Daniel was the only guy that would let me actually take the excess food from the restaurant. Mm-hmm. And what I love about Daniel too is that he's a very vulnerable human being, and he was aware of it, and he didn't try to hide it. He just said, "Yep, I know. I'm glad you're doing it." And we started catering community centers. And I know that it seems like one of those really simple things, oh, you make stuff and you give it to a community center and they give it away for free. But what normally happens in community centers is they have to kind of scavenge for the things that they need to run their basically free restaurant. And when you take the time to cater them and make beautiful, dignified food for them, it creates a much bigger impact in that specific space, in the soup kitchen space. And that's what that's when we kind of really saw the power of just doing the simple thing,
I appreciate your modesty, but in describing yourself as someone who'd worked in the restaurant business and bar back and busboy, whatever, all that kind of stuff, I think it's fair to let people know that you reached the highest level of the restaurant business. And Daniel, that you referred to, is Daniel Hum of 11 Madison Park, one of the greatest restaurants in the world. And you were the what do you call it, chef de partie? Is that how you pronounce it, partie?
Partie, yeah.
Partie. So you were modest in your description. You reached a super high level in the business, and now you've essentially you left that to do this full time.
Yeah, I left full time a couple of years ago, and I have to say there's a lot of great people that are able to reach that level. I'm not unique. I lucked out a couple times in my career by, I got to train in France. I got to go to Noma in Denmark. And I've been very fortunate to find myself in these situations. But, we just really try to focus on the practicality of the problem. And that kind of really basic, simple, not overcomplicating it idea has helped us expand and change. We've changed a lot too. We've really.
Well, by expansion, talk about how it works. Do you have if do we look at New York City? Or should we look at a bigger a geographic profile?
We could look at the country. I think is a good place. So we produce about 95,000 units a week.
Wow, that's 95,000 units. You're talking about meals that are coming from essentially leftovers in restaurants around the country.
Yeah, leftovers. Also some fresh stuff. Whatever they have, and we help them by compensating them to make these and produce these meals. And we found this like unbelievable, beautiful thing that we were really lucky to be a part of, where there's restaurateurs in the communities that we partner with that distribute the food, and you find these unbelievable restaurants in Harlem and in the South Bronx and in neighborhoods that we were partnered with that have just ridiculously good entrepreneurs, just like mind-blowingly good chefs. Like they're just so talented, but they didn't have the same ability to access capital or to have consistent revenue streams. So now you have dollars flowing into the small business community. People are getting employed, doors are opening up, things are happening. They're buying stuff from the local bodega, the local grocery store, and then they're making beautiful food for their local community. And it's really like a miraculous thing, really magical thing that happened during COVID that I think is going to change philanthropy forever.
Where does the funding that you referred to come from?
Comes from donors like you. Donate at rethink.org.
Wait. Let's get that down again. Tell me the where people would go.
You can donate at rethinkfood.org, but it's all powered by donors. It's all powered by small, medium-sized donors, a couple big donors.
And just so that I have it right, what you're saying is that you're able to take those resources, dedicate them to restaurants, and say, hey, here's some money so that you can prepare food that is coming from the surplus in your own place, and then it goes from there to community centers where it feeds people. It feeds people deliciousness.
Yep. Culturally, culturally celebrated food, like stuff that people like, like it's cool. Like in our Chinatown operation, it's 6 Chinese restaurants that make Chinese food for older adults, predominantly in Chinatown. And it's like, it's just, everybody wins, it's really a really beautiful thing.
It's amazing, actually. And you can't help but be impressed. So congratulations to you on every level for doing it. And because you can feel how powerful and how meaningful it is. You must be super gratified about what you got going so far.
It's really lucky, not trying to be humble, but like Rethink is just a very rapidly expanding network of a lot of like-minded people.
Right.
And it's yes, there's an org chart and a structure and an office and a key card and that kind of stuff, but it's really just like hundreds of people that all do little parts and make an actual sustainable and equitable food system.
And I think one of the benefits of your having established the organization is that once it's an ongoing concern, it becomes easier for people who are like-minded to be involved, and so there you go. Good on you. What else? Is there anything else, Matt, that you feel that we should talk about here that is relevant to the business? What's it looking like to you in kind of now that COVID hopefully is less of an issue? Does that really in any way kind of impact your plans moving forward?
Yeah, COVID ending, definitely things are always changing, and we're going to have to adapt as well. No, but I think that, one thing that I really think is super beautiful. Daniel Hume is a really visionary guy, and the way that he has structured his new restaurant, the veganism got the top post, but it's also much more than that. Like vegan meals are more sustainable. He's actually building a more interesting, thoughtful restaurant model. And every diner that comes into EMP, a small amount of the check will go to Rethink, and that money will pay for the food truck to go and hand out and deliver meals to local communities. And if you think about that for like one, and it sounds nice and it sounds like Tom's Shoes and stuff we know, but if you think about that in a way that's really, really, really special, that means that if tomorrow somebody turned off the lights at Rethink, meals would still be made, things would still happen. And that's what kind of makes it so revolutionary and so interesting. The way that he structured it is that it's like a new evolution in food that I think hasn't gone. People just saw vegan and we're all excited, but it's really so much more inventive what he's created.
So just because you raised it, and I think it's interesting. Do you think that a vegan restaurant can attain the same level of its kind of notoriety, fame, level of kind of culinary expertise as one that's serving all the other stuff?
Yeah. Oh my God. 100%. I mean, I actually think it's 10 times more exciting than people really realize. I mean, every fine dining restaurant, for the most part, wherever you go, will follow some type of similar pattern. And most people, I don't know if they connect with it, but you're gonna have a caviar course, right? You're gonna have like a cold fish course. You're gonna have a regular fish course. You're gonna have some type of foie gras. You're gonna have some type of duck. And when you do that and you focus a menu specifically on, everybody does it, foie, caviar, some bird, cheese, then you're really limiting yourself. You're really like, it's like, hey, paint, the Sistine Chapel, but you got to put a guy here, a guy here, a guy here, and a guy here, and it takes away from the artistry. And I think Daniel is such an artist that I am so excited to see what he's going to do, because the menu is going to be the most interesting thing that I think you're really going to be able to experience in the food world.
Yeah, it strikes me, actually, since you mentioned Noma, that you've worked now with two of the greatest chefs in the history of mankind. This is very good. Very excited about what you're doing, and that's fantastic. And good that you had Daniel Hume. Sorry about the original pronunciation. On your side on this, that's got to be helpful to you. Here's what I wanted to ask you. Speaking about caviar and foie, what was your? You were the chef de potier. Is that your partie, right? That's what it was, partie. What was your? What was your station? What was your area?
I worked at a bunch of different stations. They kind of rotate you throughout the kitchen, but yeah, I mean, I spent a lot of time making foie gras. I'll tell you that.
And were you lovely to the people that you worked with?
I always try to be. These environments are really competitive. EMP was a very special place, but they were extremely competitive environments. So there's always the cook there, chef there. I'm not here to make friends. I definitely wasn't that guy, but I was, but I was there to go do a job.
Matt Jozwiak, rethinkfood.org. Love what you're doing. Great respect. Cheers to you. And we'll find a way to get this in front of some more people so that we can continue to expand on the great work that you're doing.
Rob, thanks so much for the time.
No, thank you. I really appreciate it. Continued good luck. If I can help in any way, you let me know.
Will do. Thanks so much.
Ciao. Well, there you have it, my friends. Episode 108 of All You Can Eat. Two super impressive people in the world of food. Thank you, Kathy McCabe. Thank you, Matt Jozwiak. Great to speak with you both. And as you know, ladies and gentlemen, I'm back next week. We go live on Wednesday evenings, and then we are archived on iHeartRadio. You can find All You Can Eat there. You can go to Spotify, find All You Can Eat there. And until next time, you can also, because we're coming up on Father's Day, feel free to get a copy of my book, Short Order Dad, One Guy's Guide to Making Food Fun and Hassle-Free. Great gift for dads, honestly, who are interested in knowing a little bit more about cooking delicious food. And go ahead. You can find me on Real Rob Rosenthal if you would like to. And all my stuff, info, etc., is up there. There you have it, my friends. And as always, remember, life is short, so never waste a meal.
I'm the Teflon Pan Man. I'm the Teflon Pan Man.